Yeah. And the way I've been explaining it to people, and I have a newsletter I do for Raychart, and the way I explain it is it's just thinking versus feeling. Like we're thinking is thoughts and ideas and stories and all of that, and then all this is feeling, is sensation. Whether it's the sensation of the toes or the tree or the sun or the water, it doesn't really matter what it is. But once we start tuning into the sensation, that's when we start to come out of the head and we're in feeling or in sensation or in embodiment.
Yeah, and the great thing is that is always available. We always have our senses to tap in. Even in prison, it was right there. No, it's true. Like as soon as I figured that out, yep, locked door, suffering everywhere, people wailing and like pounding on things. But to find that center in the chaos, it's actually made a better relationship with my mind because I stayed centered and calm in that space. So if my mind goes nuts in regular meditation or whatever, I don't care. It's fine. I can find, I call it the Buddha space. You can find the Buddha space somewhere inside of me where it's like that little half smile of like, I got this. I got this.
Yeah. Or it doesn't really matter what's going on outside because it's all about what's going on inside.
Exactly. It's an inside job.
It's funny. I remember I had a ceremony in Australia or a weekend, and one person started screaming. It was 20 people. Are in rural New South Wales, a few hours from Sydney, and someone started screaming at the top of her lungs within. One person started screaming. A dude started screaming. About 5 or 10 minutes in, top of his lungs, screaming at. We're outside, so he's screaming at the moon for some reason, and then that sets off another girl. She starts screaming, and this is blood curdling, like it's a very high pitched, it's just a very powerful scream. This went on for hours, and the police came. And I remember at some point when all this was all happening, it's kind of what you were talking about, where at some point I'm like, this is really irritating. If only they could stop, I could get back to my own ceremony. I could do what I need to do, feel what I need to feel. And somehow, I don't know how, I started, probably the medicine, obviously the medicine was just chill. Just see if you can get to a point where the screaming is literally no issue. Like it just doesn't even matter anymore. And I remember feeling actually with the screams or even people moving, there was thunder, there was a windmill that had this it was like a horror movie or something. And I could feel like when these different things would happen, the body would tense in different ways. If I was really present with it, it would start to tense. And so gradually it was like, all right, just keep relaxing. And eventually all this stuff could be happening. The storm's going on. Police come. I have to talk to the police because the two people who were screaming came with me, so they want to talk to me. I'm still in the medicine. It was a whole thing. But somehow it got to a point where it's like it didn't even matter anymore because what was going on inside was like, I guess the Buddha space, as you call it, it's just like, oh, like I'm good. Like all this other stuff outside can do its thing. It doesn't have to affect me on the inside. And it's pretty cool when that stuff starts dropping in.
To me, that's the definition of liberation, is circumstantially, it does not matter what is happening. We claim our peace in this case, our okayness. Everything's okay. Yeah, mass chaos. Like, we can handle it. Like, yeah, oh gosh, it's lovely to discover how powerful we are.
Yeah. How do you, when you're working with people, as an integration coach, or even in ceremonies down in Costa Rica or wherever you do it, how do you help people stay connected other than leaning against trees?
So, well, I'll speak of it in terms of ceremony space, because first and foremost, I need to ensure I am in the space, the Buddha space. I'm in the everything's okay space, because especially with medicine, we're so sensitive that if the person who comes to assist is all tensed up and also scared, well, that's going to be contagious. So my teacher that taught me to do this work, he would say you have to be as grounded as the earth itself, like so calm, so that it's an invitation to the other person to come in. Like, everything's okay. Come join me in this space. I do it with coaching too. It just isn't as intense and urgent in that way because the screaming may not be happening, right? Like that. Ooh. But in other words, I have to lead by example. I have to actually be credible that I have access to the space I'm trying to invite other people into. Otherwise, it stays mental again. We're trying to solve it in the headspace. So I take that to heart big time, that it has to be deeply felt whatever I'm trying to help people through, that I know everything's okay, that I know that this will pass. So that's the foundation of it.
Well, how do you do that? If you're in ceremony or you're on an integration call, you might not have a tree behind you or a nature immediately present to do the nature thing. So how do you
Got an altar
access that?
where I'm sitting
What's
behind
that?
right now. I got
You
my
reckon so
altar,
the altar
which I'm
does it?
sitting behind. Yes, exactly. Because everything on the altar represents a connection to nature. It's a tool, and so some of the things help calm my nervous system. Literally, I work with nervines that will physically calm me down. I have different plant allies that create a sense of protection. Maybe I'm going to go help somebody that's got really dark energy and I need to feel like there's a cocoon around me. I got a plant for that. I got a tool for that. So I would never do any of the work I do without my allies, basically, which is what the altar is. So that way I'm not alone and I have the help that I need to give myself before I go be of service.
So would you say that's the 80-20? If that's not in place, it doesn't matter what technique you give whoever in the ceremony or on a call. It's like it's all kind of irrelevant. That's the foundation that everything else rests on.
Yeah, because it's honest. Because if I haven't cracked the code of trusting something like death, I'm also a death doula. I help people die. If I don't trust that it's safe, then what the hell am I doing trying to be of service to try to tell somebody else to believe that it's safe? But I'm human and I'm going to go into contraction of fear. I'm going to have triggers, which is what the altar is for. Of like that's my tools that remind me, oh yeah, yeah, just chaos, smile at it, like,
Yeah.
but I need that because you never know what's going to trigger me.
That can be some of the tricky thing. I found that quite tricky sometimes. I can have a ceremony like that with the police, and I'm just like, shit's going crazy. If there was ever a time for me to be freaking out, it'd be a time like that, and yet somehow I find that calm. But then another time, like not even that much is happening. Like it's nothing crazy's going on. Like, and somehow I can't get to that place at all. I'm just stranded in some hurricane somewhere. In my mind, this could be in ceremony, even just day to day. It's just like it's this continual back and forth. I'm in and then I'm out. And then, of course, over time, hopefully we spend more time in that space. We get better at, that's the goal to me, is to get
It
better at
gets more
accessing that.
familiar. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. But that speaks to, I think we all need tools and modalities. Otherwise, we're relying on the mind to access a place the mind can't access. It's the wrong tool. It's kind of like taking a hammer and breaking a window and expecting the hammer to break the window. Wrong tool. No, we need tools that actually help us access our hearts, our bodies, our nervous systems, our emotional spaces. And the mind isn't the tool for that. So if we try to white knuckle our way through these experiences without having different like allies and modalities, it's not going to go well.